In this video, we're going to show you how to replace the control arm on your Jeep Grand Cherokee located on the upper portion of your front suspension. Using your 19mm socket, loosen and remove the lug nuts. Once you have the lug nuts removed, grab the wheel, remove it, and set it aside. On our upper control arm attached to the differential here, there's a bolt right here securing the control arm. Now we're going to use a 15mm socket on the nut side, and on the other side, it's a T50 Torx bit. That is T50. We're going to go ahead, loosen and remove this nut. We're going to put our T50 Torx bit on the other side. With that loose, go ahead and remove the nut. And we can go ahead and pop our bolt out now. Now, as you've seen here, that control arm naturally popped up. Now, with our suspension compressed in what we call a neutral position, that is where the control arm would normally be. So when we install everything, we're then going to go ahead and compress our suspension up to a neutral position, which is pretty much where that control arm is going to be. And then we'll finish tightening it at that point. On the inside of the control arm, we have our differential vent tube right here. There is a metal clip. We're going to pop that out after, but right now, just pop that hose out and just let that hang. Now back here, we have our rearward bolt. Now this nut is part of a lock tab over here. It's a fixed nut. So we don't have to put a socket on top of this here, but what we do want to do is spray this down with some rust penetrant and let that soak for a little bit. Now to gain access to the rearward bolt on our upper control arm, you're going to go through this rubber plug right here. You want to go ahead and pop this off. You can use a trim tool, something that won't really puncture that. Pull that out, and there's the bolt inside there. We can use a 13mm socket and extension to go ahead and loosen that bolt. Now from the back side, the nut came off, and it just uses this tab to lock it in place, so you can go ahead and remove this bolt. Be careful removing this here. Try not to drop it down inside the frame, but there's the bolt. We're gonna go ahead and clean up our threads on a wire wheel machine. You can use your wire brush if you want. You can just reach in, grab that control arm, wiggle that out. Now when we pull this out, we do want to go ahead and remove our little clip here that secures our differential vent tube. Just going to grab this, lift it up and pull. Undo that little tab there. Ours is a little rusty. You can reuse this here if you're able to get off in good shape, or simply we'll just use a tie strap of some sort, a wire tie, to go ahead and secure the hose to the control arm there. Now what you're going to do is you want to try and get that control arm up into its general vicinity and get that put into the pocket inside the unibody or the frame. Now I'll be able to see that hole inside the frame. I have our clean bolt on our extension here. I'm going to line that up and push that in. Might take you a couple of tries to get it, but that's good. You just get it in there. Once you have that through on the other side, I'm going to go ahead and get the nut started on the other side. Now I'm going to put my extension back on this, let that hang out there for a minute. I'm going to go up underneath, and I'm going to get our nut with the little lock tab on the other side here and just get it started a few threads. Once you have that started, let's go ahead and install that forward mounted bolt. Go ahead and position our control arm here. We did clean this bolt and put some anti-seize compound on that as well. Push it on through. I'm going to go ahead and get that nut started on the other side. Our next step is we're going to put our jack underneath our differential. We're going to raise up our suspension to the neutral ride height, just to the point where our vehicle starts to come off of our lift. That tells us that the weight of the vehicle has compressed our suspension as if it were on the ground. If you want to, you can install your wheel. If you did remove it, lower the vehicle down to the ground so it's on the weight, the full body weight is on the suspension compressed, and then torque both of these bolts. And we have our jack underneath. Go ahead and compress that suspension if this is the way that you're going. Now the reason why we're doing this here is that the bushings themselves, if we were to tighten the control arm with the suspension and its full droop position, when we put it on the ground and the suspension compressed, it would actually preload those bushings, leading to premature bushing, tearing, wearing, and it can actually cause for a stiff drive or ride when you're going down the road. So at this point here, it's in its neutral position. Let's torque these here and get that done. Let's go ahead and torque this down to 45 foot-pounds. Now on the inside of the back bolt here for the control arm, you can see we have the nut and then we have the little locking tab, and there's a little bump out right here in the back. That's where the lock tab is going to lock up against. So you want to make sure before you torque the bolt on the other side, you want to make sure that this lock tab is sitting on top, locked into this little lock or bump right here. That way when we torque it, it does have the proper torque and this is not going to spin off. Torque the back bolt to 45 foot-pounds. Install the rubber plug. After you've installed your component, you can now bring the vehicle down to get an alignment professionally performed. Install the clip into the control arm. And then pop your differential vent hose into that. Remove your jack. Take your wheel, bring it up, set it into place. You want to start all of our lug nuts by hand first. Once we have all the lug nuts on, let's go ahead and snug them down. Torque the lug nuts to 100 foot-pounds.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.